So welcome to the very first Black Diamond Advisory Splash 2024 YouTube podcast episode. That's a very long name. My name is Cameron Lackbour. I have with me my colleagues
Selvan Katukaran, Greg Beaton,
and really two guys that don't need introduction, but we're going to have them introduce themselves regardless. Please.
Hi, I'm Bob Powers, CTO, OneStream Software.
Hi, Tom Shea, CEO, OneStream Software, and I guess we'll also say we're both co-founders and all-around technical geeks.
Yes. So thank you so much for agreeing to talk to us. We know that you're a very busy group of people. We really, truly appreciate it. Getting right into all about this conference, you guys are leading this, right? You are the leaders of the company. What will our guests who are watching this, our audience watching this after the conference, what should everyone get excited about?
I'll start and I'll let Bob add some color, but I think you guys have been around OneStream in this community for quite some time, right? And I think we've always seen the potential of this platform, this idea of this one unified platform that you can create software on top of. What you're seeing in this conference, I think in particular that has me most excited, is that we have these multi-year investments where we've really been enhancing the engine level of the platform and then sort of the development level capabilities. And that all that added up to a lot more innovation, a lot faster innovation for not only us, but for partners. And you're now seeing that surface this year with some amazing feature sets across the board. And that's really what I think people are going to come away with and say, wow, they've really kind of changed their orientation now. The platform, as we all know, software is never complete, but the platform's reached a level of capability that we can start to focus on things that maybe we didn't pay as much attention to, or maybe we had to go slower in some of the functional areas for a while. You always have these sort of ebbs and flows, but this year you're going to see some amazing new functionality that touches all across the spectrum, from artificial intelligence to ease of use to extending and building on top of the platform. So just great coverage everywhere.
Yeah. I'll say, I think you look back just even 5 years, a lot of our initiatives were functional. How do we make the functional capabilities of the product better? We're still doing that, but there's so much the talent we have in our organization now, and in the whole ecosystem. It's so diverse, and we have a lot going on at the infrastructure level, Azure cloud technologies, the platform level with, we basically have two types of areas where we invest in platform capabilities, enabling the true software engineers to build better solutions and more powerful solutions in a non-OneStream, but also rapid application development capabilities now that we'll be presenting this week at Splash that really broaden out the people who can build solutions. So truly our platform, and it's showing more and more, and I think even just at the conference today, you can see the excitement of what you see the light bulbs go off and people like, oh, I can build that now in OneStream. It's really crazy.
Tom, this is the area of generative AI now. Are we going to see something like from OneStream about like you give it something saying, okay, I want this to be done? Is OneStream getting into that generative AI space where we will get more ease in creating things or developing?
Yes. So the short answer is yes. And the long answer is we've really come up with what we consider the right AI strategy. We call it Enterprise Finance AI as a blanket term for the Office of the CFO. Because if we think of generative AI, and this is the problem, AI, and especially generative AI, means a lot of different things to a lot of different people.
It sure does. Yep.
Right. And so we were chatting a little bit earlier about the power of generative AI and how strong it is to be creative, right? And you think of these tools out there that have been developed that are these really powerful reasoning engines. And so to me, what I see when I see these capabilities is this notion that instead of us, if we think we were going to search a bunch of text, right? How would we go and do it pre-generative AI? We would use semantic search. We would write a bunch of if statements and conditions or regex, all different types of technical ways that we could find something in that text, ultimately resulting in a lot of code and a lot of if statements and a lot of heuristics. But now with generative AI, we have this ultimate powerful reasoning engine. Great. But what is the value of that to CFOs? Because we have to always put the lens of finance and the CFO on that. So to answer your question a little bit more broadly, what we have planned is making generative AI useful for the CFO. And so what we mean, you think about how can we teach generative AI to actually talk to our cubes? Right. So basically ask a vague question, try to locate a cell within OneStream. Can we use generative AI as a natural language processor to locate a discrete intersection among trillions of possible cells? So we'll be giving you a little bit of a preview of one of the personas inside of our Sensible Gen AI product called Rubix. And Rubix is able to actually go in and locate cells and then actually navigate and help you find those.
So you can ask it to give me the budget of 2025, and that's gonna. Oh, that's,
Absolutely. And so that's one area where we think there's a tremendous amount of value to the CFO, and then do it in a way that's fact-based. And if you think about why would that be important or interesting for OneStream or for CFOs, we have, since you know our cubes, we have calc status, right? We have cells, we have knowable information that's fact-based in our models. So if we're able to show you and we're able to use a generative AI reasoning engine to actually locate a cell, you can help us understand, did we find the right cell? Should we go further with this? Rather than just asking Gen AI on its own, it'll come back and it can be very assertive and you think, wow, I got the right answer. But it's not, because it's not rooted in fact and you don't know. There's a lack of transparency and trust. So that's a hallmark of when we talk about enterprise finance AI, it's putting those things in place that people need to be able to use it. And then second, we showed last year at our conference the ability to surround generative AI with smart documents. Right? So that's the next thing, fact-based. Giving the power to different functional areas to build up these knowledge clusters, and then being able to interact through that Sensible Gen AI interface and either have Rubix answer if you're talking to the cube, or have Curate, the other persona inside of Sensible Gen AI, look up facts in the surrounding document repository that we've built that's all embedded and allows it to be used, contextual information about your business that can be used in that conversation to get to a fact-based answer. So the long answer is yes, and that's the applied generative AI approach that OneStream is building.
That's pretty cool. So that's the AI side of it. That's the lens into the data. Let's talk about the engine, Bob. What is coming in the cubes for us? I mean, the cubes have largely remained the same since the beginning of the tool. I don't know that that's 100% fair, but it's broadly correct. But there are changes coming. Can you talk about what's new with the engine?
Yeah, we're really excited about something we're calling dynamic cubes. Dynamic dimensions and dynamic data make dynamic cubes. So, look now, there are thousands of people now that know how to write calculations in OneStream, and they know how to build reports and dashboards and screens, and we are one unified platform. So we want to have them be able to use those same things, that those presentation layer and the reporting and the calculations in data that isn't in the traditional cube, the traditional way of the controlled way, particularly for actuals of loading data in the cube and blessing it and auditing it. So there's a lot of other data, external data, operational data usually, that isn't so static. It's fast changing. Mm-hmm. And so, but that is, the people until now weren't able to surface that in those mechanisms I just described. So dynamic cubes is, well, first of all, dynamic dimensions, which is coming out this year, is the ability to write business rule code to dynamically populate a dimension in our dimension library. You can change every minute, every day, every hour, whatever you want. It's dynamic. So think of your employee dimension or your customer list. Those are changing all the time. We would want to maintain something like that in dimension library. It's changes all the time.
It's looking at the fact fields, figuring out what the dimension is, coming up with some sort of relationship
in real time and not a copy. Yeah.
So earlier we had the build the dimension from a business rule because you could make the source as a business rule.
Yeah. No,
that gets stored.
Nothing is stored on OneStream. Yeah. So the dynamic dimension. So again, your employee list is the easiest example. On top of that, just like the dimensions. So once you have a dynamic dimension it looks the same to the administrator of OneStream. You create cubes just like you do today. You could use all dynamic dimensions, a combination of dynamic and traditional dimensions. On top of that, once you define the cube, you could tell the cube, no, this is not a traditional cube. I'm not going to load any data to it. I want the data to be dynamic as well. And so similarly, business rules written, it can surface data in our cube mechanism dynamically from the source system, no copying of data, And so now you can use everything that OneStream offers. And you can write calculations on it. The same API data calculates.
So from a developer's perspective, it looks the same,
Just
just
like-
feels the same.
From developer and end user implementers, it's the same. They don't even know after the data has come back. You can write calculations. You can write back to the source system if the owner of the source system wants to allow you to do that in the cube view or in an XF set cell.
Is there size limitations at all?
I'm sorry.
Size limitations?
So it's the source data itself obviously is big as it needs to be. There's still considerations on, okay, I know we're presenting this in a 18-dimensional cube. Same data unit concerns and that, but it can be so flexible with the business role that you're doing a particular analysis, say a customer analysis,
Right.
you narrow it in at a certain area. So the size becomes less of an issue.
We're going to
add a little bit of clarity to that question on the data, because we're not physically changing the data unit, physics boundaries. And when you think about, when I say data unit physics, think of 2 million base rows in a cube, right? That's a theoretical limit. We have customers that have gone to 18 million rows, but it has to do with in HF or inside of OneStream, there's the dynamic aggregation that you all know on for the intra dimensions, account and everything to the right of that, the UDs.
What?
That's why that's the limitation, right? It's not that we can't do more than 2 million cells. It's the fact that on the fly you're having to compute all those combinations, and when you get up to there, you're talking about a really large factorial. When you think about hybrid cubes, the reason that you have more control and you can change it is you get more flexibility on how you want to think about the data unit, right? Because you're physically able to. So say that you're using BI Blend as the foundation to load data every single day, read it, drop it, and you have X number of dimensions sitting inside of BI Blend. Now, in BI Blend, we purposely made it so that you could have what was called the blend unit. You could be much more flexible.
You could change it,
to think about how am I going to primarily consume this data. So if you orient your product in that way, you can then also decide how to build your hybrid cube off of that. And so you're structuring the hybrid cube, and we'll be building automated use cases that show you how to build hybrid cubes directly off of BI Blend. So in essence, you can always kind of alter the definition of the data unit. But even more so than that, you could even do your own filtering if you wanted to have a large data unit. Say you had a data unit that traditionally might have been, not perform at the really high end. You could also just still keep that data unit, but filter it, as Bob was saying, when you're populating the data unit, only bring back. So almost think of doing a sparsity calculation in your populating of the data unit, where you're actually only bringing in what was required to answer that particular question.
we're going to get a better Excel app, is what I'm hearing.
It's really, really fundamentally game changing for those of us that have all been working in, there's always trade-offs between having stored aggregation and being able to do the complex consolidations. That's why we have the data unit definition. But then being able to step over here and actually have this degree of flexibility. But ultimately the goal was, as Bob said, to break the barrier of, hey, we know that doing this daily type of data processing is, handling non-durable data where you need to read it, enrich it very quickly, then report on it for some period of time, let's call it 24 hours, drop it, and then reproduce everything, right? And redo it all again. Well, this really sets you up to do that. And so BI Blend was great at doing that. But the problem is when you wanted to get in and start doing really discrete cellular math, right? If we think about the things that we do in a cube, an API.data.calculate or a dynamic calculation, those capabilities now exist against this rapidly changing operational data through dynamic cubes.
The analysis part also was tricky with the blend. So now when it comes into the cube, it's easier for people to have that same.
And you'll see a couple examples here at Splash. That would be a blend example. Another example, actually the one I started when the team and I started implementing this, was against the Microsoft AdventureWorks table, the database. So we started with that database, and the goal was to first take some of its dimensional tables and use them as dynamic dimensions. Then second, to use the fact tables as dynamic source data for the cube without copying everything. Then on top of that, run calculations on that source data in that cube. Normally, you're not writing there's no new BR APIs. It's the same API data calculate, and then also write back to them. So the person can go. We have a cube where we have a customer analysis cube again against Adventure Works, where we're surfacing it in cube views, writing some extra calcs for accounts that didn't exist in those tables, and then typing back to the source data in a cube view and showing calc status.
It is a pure analytic play. The whole
Yes.
thing.
Great.
Finally.
In the
Finally
Excel
here.
add-in, everything, every way we surface data, it surfaces that.
So the relational blend is kind of like fading away, or
No, because it's still going to do a lot of the heavy lifting if you think about it. What its strength is the rapid loading, but you can use it, I think, more efficiently now because of dynamic cubes. We've always knew that we needed to advance this, but if you think of the stored calculation or the stored aggregation capabilities of BI Blend, which is, it's really great if you want to store those parent relationships that are static and store those aggregations. But you all know, we all know by being in this world, how fast those factorials climb and the amount of data that can get stored if you're using BI Blend. So if you think about, but BI Blend is really good at processing huge amounts of data. We have customers that are reading, millions of rows and turning them into billions overnight during the day. So, and that's even with doing the aggregation in BI Blend. But now, if you step back from BI Blend with hybrid cubes, we don't have to offload all of the aggregate. We can pick certain elements that we actually want to. So if you think of using BI Blend and hybrid cubes together as a use case, we'll pick whatever we want to do stored aggregation on. So whatever we pick as the blend unit, we're going to get some aggregation that we have BI Blend do. Now we have the full set of what you would consider data units created. And then at that point, we don't have to aggregate all the intra dimensions anymore within BI Blend. We can let dynamic cubes do that on a dynamic basis. And so that way we're actually able to mix the best of both capabilities, giving us the ability to really go after, use BI Blend for that rapid data processing and loading, and let it be the target or the landing pad for dynamic cubes. And I think another thing that Bob should talk about that I think is really interesting is the ability to actually, it all plays within extensible dimensionality as well. So you can actually build a dynamic cube. So this is going to make your head hurt a little bit. You can build a dynamic cube that can actually be linked into, aggregate to, mixed with standard dimensions and consolidate into a primary cube.
Wow. You've solved the sizing issue. You've solved the scaling issue. That's it. You just described it.
Feels like we have.
Yeah.
This
There's
was,
still some implementation considerations.
Always.
Like always, it's physics.
Like the issues that were there before aren't.
Yeah, if you can't work your way out of, so it's up to us now to take this technology, and we're really committed to building out the predefined use cases. But it really is a very important step in going after and broadening the ability to solve all these different, durable data use cases and non-durable data use cases.
it's the transactional analysis is something where everyone was getting stuck at, or the operational side too. So we could solve it in relational, but then people are like, oh, well, we like the cube views. And
That's it. BI Blend was so good at processing the transactions, but when you started to get to more complicated math that you want a cube for, you started to break down. It was good for pivots, good for sorting, top end, top bottom, any sort of statistical calculations or permutations, but it started to break down when you needed to get into deep, cube level, cell-based discrete math.
When we first started, functionally designing this, our first goal was presentation. So, to have the operational data be, available in Excel add-in and cube views and those things. And I was stuck in my head a little bit on how do we make cube views, so a higher level, communicate with the operational data, which would have been very limiting. It would just be cube views. And then there was a eureka moment where we said, no, let's jump it down a level and have the cube in the dimension surfaces. And we get that much more.
We're almost out of time. I have one last question for you. We are trying to respect the timing issues that you guys have, the schedule that you have. You mentioned, Bob, that the profile of the people that are developing using these amazing tools is changing. How is it going to change with this new stuff?
Excuse me?
Change the profile of the person doing the implementations.
The profile. I was first thinking you're going to our own engineering organization on that.
I don't know what name you would choose.
because actually that's been changing quite a bit with the advanced technologies, and there's a lot of on that side, a lot of really great talent that we've hired that know Azure and cloud technologies. On top of that, the engines that we've been just talking about, and on top of that, modern browser experience, different technologies there. So the implementers, I think it's similar in that we talked about some other things with the platform development being close to the true software engineer, build powerful solutions, coupled with new rapid application development technologies we're building with Genesis. We can have non-software engineers build solutions as well. So I think it's similar as what we've always had, but we expand the ecosystem of people. And also with the dynamic cubes and those technologies, it takes people that can understand cubes and multidimensionality and to have these conversations. So there's that maybe 20% of the people that can even have those conversations. But I think for those people, they'll have more capabilities to be able to do more.
I would just complement that by saying with the discussion that I was describing with BI Blend, there is the opportunity to really productize the use case. Because BI Blend, if you remember, it uses a cube structure that it never puts data into. So as an outline, as we're all familiar with, if we simply flip that cube to become a dynamic cube, and then we're able to just make a simple series of easy configuration steps, you can just point the hybrid cube right to it, and there'll be a couple modalities that allow it to just turn that. Once it's done processing BI Blend, the dynamic cube just knows right what to go to. So in that case, I think to try to answer your question is, there are, we're focused on, you're always going to have the folks that are technically capable going to want to push this, but we also think there's an opportunity to productize some of the use cases to get people known. Like, look, if you want to process daily and weekly data, here's a use case, here's a builder that shows you how to use BI Blend plus dynamic cubes to come up with a monitoring solution that would allow you to process transactions on a daily basis. So we think that'll help us go a long way to enabling the field or the implementers to understand how to get leverage on this technology.
And actually, just to add to that a little more, internally, the way we've operated at OneStream and building this, the majority of the code in the platform for what we just described was finished about 4 months ago. There's always tweaks. And since then, we've had our best implementers at OneStream throughout the company take it and see what they could do. And there's actually been kind of hackathon type approach where people coming up with crazy use cases that I didn't think of. And so this is somewhat to your question, where like I wouldn't have thought of that as a platform developer, but cool. And you'll see some of this stuff this week. So in some of that has been kind of a feedback loop where I and the team have enhanced it. Just if it used to me this a little bit more, I can, they can get it, enhance the use case. There'll be more of that over the year and next couple of years to refine it on some of the things that become best practice.
Some of these things you said are very exciting, especially as a technical person who, as these gentlemen like it. But I worked for the office of the CEO for years, and the most exciting thing you said is they can ask for their results. I've met so many CFOs who are going to love that.
Yeah, we're in the first innings here of what we're going to be able to do with generative AI. And yeah, I'm sure you guys have been aware of sensible machine learning, but we're really showing the true power of our AutoML engine, which is called Experiflow. And it is just really starting to shine and prove that you can actually get more forecast cycles done at a lower cost, and at a higher quality. If you couple that with generative AI in the future, you can really see a future here where we can help people understand and get new insights that weren't possible.
Fantastic.
Exciting.
On that note, I'm going to end the episode. Thank you both so much, and thank you to my co-hosts as well. This has really been fantastic. Again, our thanks.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.